Good evening, I'm Bob. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here. I'd like to thank Cheryl for inviting me out here. You know, on the way here, I'm in Tarzana, which is in the San Fernando Valley. We made it in 2.5 hours, good weather. Came across a rainbow and a grapevine, which was very unusual. We were trying to find the beginning and the end, and that rainbow was like following us. And checked in, and I went over to the Rite Aid there. And as I was going, some kids with the 12-pack were crossing mid-block. I had to slow down, almost hit them, you know. And I went over to the Rite Aid, and the woman in front of me, she forgot some item, and she let me go in front of her. And she had a 12-pack of beer, and the woman said, "Is that yours?" And I said, "No, I don't drink." You know, and I am an alcoholic. I am an episodic alcoholic. That is a $50 word for a binge drinker. I drank in binges. And my last binge lasted 2.5 years. I was drunk every day. When it's hot out in the summertime, if I wanted to drink, all I had to do was lick my forearm, and had enough booze in there to last me. If you want to hear about drugs, you ain't going to hear it from me because I never did drugs. I like booze. Tanqueray gin, Beefeater's gin, Smirnoff's vodka, any kind of beer that they made, I drank because it was cheap. And how bad it got, I was living in Detroit, Michigan. We had a blizzard. And they told everybody to stay off the road because there was a blizzard. Now, a good alcoholic has an imagination. So what you do is you follow a county snowplow. He clears the path for you. And I went to a store called Great Scott's. And there was nobody in the store but me and the people that worked there. And you got to sort of color it up. A quart of milk, a loaf of bread. Oh, you have beer on sale. Oh, you know, and so I got 6 12-packs. And then you got to try to get home, you know. And that funny thing that happened to me once before, and I couldn't get my car out of the lot because of the snow. So the store was only about 2 blocks away, and I had to walk home. And I got up that morning, and I always parked the car in the driveway, and the car wasn't there. And I called the police, Redford Township Police, and said, somebody stole my car. I had it parked in the driveway. Somebody stole my car, and it's really embarrassing when they call you back 2 hours later and says, we found your car, you had a loaf of bread, a quart of milk, and a couple 6-packs of beer in there. You know. Oh, yeah. So it's really embarrassing. I used to lose a lot of things when I drank, normally cars. Anyways, I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And anybody knows anything about Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's the beer capital of the world. And I'm from the south side. I'm of Polish descent. I'm from the EIEIO tribe. We're the guys that start fights at weddings, you know. And, you know, in Milwaukee, we got a lot of Irishmen and a lot of Polacks. You know, if you ever go to a Polish event, all you have to do is yell, stand, and 20 guys will turn around. What do you want? You know, and, but I am, my grandfather was alcoholic. He used to beat up my grandmother. And my dad, seeing this, I never saw my father drunk. And that was amazing. My father never drank, and I made up for him, you know. And, I don't know if it's in my genes. I don't know if I inherited this. It doesn't matter. I can't send my genes to a meeting to recover. I have to come myself. And that's the way it works, you know. You talk about, Cheryl and I were talking about the influx. You know, the treatment centers, they got a good heart. But you know what? And I don't want to offend anybody, but there's no such thing as an addict alcoholic. You're either one or the other. I also belong to another 12-step program. I'm a compulsive gambler, but you won't hear me talk about it here. because it doesn't belong here. Our founder, Dr. Bob, was a drug addict, but it never came out. And I wonder if you ever, if Dr. Bob didn't take drugs, being a proctologist and going on and looking at patients, if he wasn't taking drugs and he was strung out and he was looking at somebody on a table and say, you know what, you look familiar. What did you say? Boy, you got bad breath. But they're two different addictions and illnesses. And I started to drink when I was 14 years old and I got drunk. I drank a bottle of Southern Comfort. My sister had a party and my sister's older than me and she had all her friends there. And I got sicker than a dog. I was just sick. And that was the pattern of my drinking. I would drink a lot and get sick. And then I would drink a lot and not get sick, but get into a lot of trouble. You give me a belly full of beer, and I had a mind full of trouble. I could get myself into a lot of trouble when I drank. And drinking in episodes, I would get real sick and I wouldn't touch the stuff for 2-3 months, and then I would hit it again. And I would get sick, and that's what an episodic alcoholic does. He doesn't drink all the time, except the last 2.5 years. And that was pure hell. And I was in Vietnam. I was looking outside the plaque there. And I was a year's drunk. I was drunk all the time in Vietnam. And I was stationed back in the rear. And that was bad. And, I don't know if anybody experienced this, but, towards the end, I only wanted to go to a bar and have one drink. I didn't want to get drunk. But it always turned out that it was impolite to leave after one drink. You just didn't do that. And I drank martinis, and they had those little sticks. And I would say I'm going to have 2 martinis. And I would drink one, and I would go to the bathroom, and the bartender would clean up after me, and I had to start counting again. It was embarrassing. When I was a kid with my buddies, we used to brag. When the kids would go out and you drink and you brag about all the things you would do and all the idiotic things you would do, and you would all laugh and wow, it's great trying to be an adult. Later on, when that happened, I didn't brag anymore. It was too embarrassing as to the things I did. And, I can't go there, I can't go there, I was running out of bars. I never got 86. I just eliminated myself. And, my ex-wife was just livid at me, at my conduct. And, but you know what? It's a baffling, powerful, cunning thing. It's legal. What am I doing wrong? I'm going out and buying a beer. It's legal. They sell it in the stores. It's legal. There's nothing wrong with this. Trying to go to a ball game. I was living in Detroit. I went to Tiger Stadium. I got so drunk, I passed out. And then she said, "Where'd you park the car?" I says, "I don't know. I lost the car." We had to go up and down the street to find the car. And that's embarrassing, too. But I was working for an independent adjusting outfit, and one of the guys was going to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I knew I had a problem. And I asked him about it. And I said, "Bob, tell me about this AA." He says, "Well, you go to 90 meetings in 90 days, and if you don't like it, you can go back and drink." But he didn't tell me the rest. Because Bob didn't want to stop drinking. And I knew I had a problem. So back on June the 25th of 1975, I had my last drunk. And if anybody knows anything about American history, that was Custer's last stand. That is the day Custer caught us lunch over at Little Bighorn. And my hangovers were like that battle. I mean, they were just pounding. The Indians were just pounding the cavalry, and they would stop. And then all of a sudden I hear a little voice, and now we're going to start scalping. And it started to go again, And I just, oh my God. I don't know if anybody had the thing, when you drank too much, your bench starts to spin. Spin and spin. And what you do is you put your foot on the floor. You see? And it stops spinning, but you try to get a good night's sleep with the bed spinning all the time. It don't work. Anyways, prior to that time, I totaled out 2 company cars. That was my 3rd car I totaled out. It was embarrassing. If anybody, really embarrassing. If anybody's familiar with Detroit, Michigan, the accident occurred on Grand River and McNichols. If you're a little bit more familiar with Detroit, that is where the 6th precinct is, the police station, right in front of the cop shop. So I didn't walk, I didn't get a ride, I walked. And I went berserk in that police station, and they locked me up. And I had enough. Enough is enough. And then I did something really stupid. I started to pound my head against the bars. Well, you do that 3 or 4 times, it hurts. And you stop doing it. So I was trying to drive some sense into my head. And then I was behaving myself, so they took the handcuffs off and they moved me to another cell. And they forgot to lock the cell door. So I kicked it open, and they came to get me at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the cops were all upset that the cell door was open. I said, where do you think I'm going? I'm not going anywhere. So they took me down, and the other 2 guys that were in the squad car, they handcuffed them, and they didn't put handcuffs on me, and I thought maybe they wanted me to drive the squad car down to them. They didn't do that. And I really scared the living hell out of me. I was scared straight. That was the first time I was ever incarcerated in jail. And what am I going to tell all these people? What kind of lie? I didn't want to lie anymore. I had enough. And that's when I started to take this. But I didn't take it all the way. Because, back in the 70s, we didn't have MAD. And the cop there over at the 6th precinct said, why don't you shut your mouth? You can get out of this. But I didn't want to get out of it. I had enough. And I stopped drinking then and there. But that is not even half of it. The other half is I didn't want to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. Because what's a nice guy like me doing in AA? And which was a lot of baloney. And I got access to a car, and I went over to a meeting on 8 Mile and Schaefer at Koffenheimer's Bakery. And I seen people walking into that meeting, and I ran away. And I left Detroit. My ex-wife had a boyfriend. That wasn't working out. So I left on Halloween. And I made that fatal call to Alcoholics Anonymous in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And a girl by the name of Shirley answered the phone. And I started to talk, and she kept on saying, I understand. I understand. I kept on, I understand. I understand. Okay, oh my God. You understand? You really understand? I understand. So I went to my first meeting at the Serenity Club. There's about 8 people there. We all ran around the table and shared. I was the last one to speak. And everybody that spoke I could relate to. I said, you know what? Do I know you people? Because you sound like you know me. And everybody went around the table. And I fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't want to drink. I didn't know how to stop. And I kind of figured that this was the place where I could do that. And one of my character traits is I'm obstinate and I'm bullheaded. Stubborn. And when I say I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink. But that in and of itself is not enough, because this thing is supposed to be a program of recovery. Why should I go around life feeling miserable unless I want to recover from this. And I told my sister Barbara, that was that year in 1975, Christmas time, I showed her the 12 steps of recovery. And I said, there's something here for me. I didn't realize it at the time because I didn't start to take it, but I kind of had a lot of hope that this thing was going to work. And it did work. Despite myself. And I love the thing, the meetings. And I came out to Los Angeles and got big meetings, and I came from a small town where everybody shared and they had a different set of rules there, and that's okay. You can find a meeting where you can fit in, and I do. And, I started to go and back in Milwaukee. My dad almost died back in 76. He had something caught in his windpipe. And I pounded on his chest and he started to spit up blood. My mom thought I was beating the hell out of him. I was living with my folks at the time. And the paralegals came and the medics came and my mother says, he's an alcoholic. And the paramedic says, that alcoholic just saved your husband's life. My dad saved my life subsequent to that. And my father died in 2000. He was my best friend. A lot of the things that my father told me when I was growing up, I said, but he was really a smart man. And it turned out we became best of friends. And I really saw him. I really miss my dad. And thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous, because I went to a lot of meetings when he died. And I flew from L.A. to Milwaukee, and I went to a lot of meetings. And that's the way it works. Anyways, this program is a program of action, and it's a program of recovery. And it's funny how, as you go on, as I went on, you reach different plateaus or different steps. I used to hang around a Serenity Club in Milwaukee, which is a clubhouse for recovered alcoholics. And you got to know people, And we had one guy there by the name of Bill. He was married to Paula. And we always would ask Bill if you wanted to go to a meeting. And Bill said, I don't need that. Don't need it. Paula would go upstairs with us. The meeting rooms were upstairs. So one Monday I walked in there and everybody was a little bit gloomy. And I said, what happened? Oh, Bill took a 12-gauge shotgun and blew his brains out. But for the grace of God goes I. And you know what? I went to a lot of meetings because I didn't want to be like Bill. And the program works real funny. I was in a real bad place one winter back in 1976, 78, I don't recall. And I was over there and I had a car, and he asked me, since I had a car, if I would go on a 12-step call. And that particular day, I walked in there with the worst attitude. The whole world was against me, and they were highly organized, and Christ, I'll go on your 12-step call. I ain't going to lose face. I'll go. And I took 2 other people with me. And it was a Polish flat. And I was the first stop because we're going to get in and out of this thing in 10 minutes. It's going to be the fastest 12-step call you ever seen. And I rapped on the door, and this door opened, and woman was buck-ass naked. And she was nothing to look at. And she walked back there. And she, in her bed, you could see it was all brown spotted because she relieved herself in her bed, and it stunk like hell. And the 2 people that were there, I said, why don't you 2 get chairs and talk to her? I'll be right back here. And on the kitchen table were 3 bottles of booze, 2 empty, 1 filled. But you know what? The funny thing about that is that I walked out of there, and I was the most grateful person in the whole world. I was so full of gratitude. The Lord was no longer against me, and I was so grateful. I couldn't believe it. And that's the magic of going on 12-step calls. I don't know if she ever stayed sober, but I know she helped me stay sober. Penny, my better half, and I were working with a gal from India. And I don't know how Penny did it. She's got a better program than I, but this girl would get drunk and she would howl like a wild animal and scare the living hell out of you. Honest to gosh. And she went into a treatment center and she was spent a month there and then she went back out. And you know what? After a while, they ain't going to take you back. So I said to Penny, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to get a bottle of booze, keep in the back of our van, and when we get a call to go see her, we're going to start feeding her a shot every 2 hours. Well, we never got to do that, and we were uncomfortable having that bottle of booze. And you learn something about life is that you can't return booze. They will not take it. So here I got this fifth of vodka, and they won't take it. And this was over at the Great Scots over in Ventura Boulevard there in Tarzana. And right there is a Washington Mutual, and I see all these street people going through the garbage in there. So this is about 10 o'clock at night. We don't want the booze. We can't give it back. So I said, let's drop it in there. You know, some street person will probably need it to keep warm, you know. And that's how we got rid of it. And it does work. You know, I went through a lot in sobriety. I lost jobs. I was just about homeless. I pulled myself out, and it is because of this program that I did make it. You know, we all go through these things, these different phases. And, you sober up, it doesn't mean that your life is going to be la-di-da and sunshine and smiles. And, no, that isn't the way it works. People are going to die and things are going to happen. And it's always good that I have you people. Now, people where I worked are going to ask me what I did for New Year's Eve, and I'm going to tell them I went to see some friends in Lindsay, California. And when I went to Las Vegas to the Roundup back in November, I went to see some friends in Las Vegas, Nevada. I got a lot of friends all over the country. And that's the beautiful part about Alcoholics Anonymous. It really does work. You know, these steps, when I admit that I'm powerless, and I was, because I never did stop at one drink, and my life was pure hell. I remember when I was living with my ex-wife, we were painting the house, and we took the numbers off. So I was going to spray paint the letters on the numbers on the house. And I left them in the garage, and I wasn't getting any mail. Because the mail I used to get, it would be a white envelope with big red letters, open now or die, you know, because I owed money, you know, and I wasn't paying my bills. And, my life was pure hell. And as far as being insane when I drank, yes, I was. Because I did things I would never do. I remember I used to run on an attorney, and he took me to a high-class restaurant in Detroit. Really high class. You know, the waiter spoke 3 languages. And I was drinking at the time. And we're going to have wine before the lunch, you know. And of course, he came by me and asked me if I would taste the wine to see if it was chilled enough. I said, yeah, good, leave the bottle. Fine. And me and the attorney and his buddy, we were drinking there. And we pounded down that bottle of wine, and we wanted another one. And I told him, get another bottle of wine. And the people that were next to us, they were sort of disturbed at our language and our conduct. And the waiter put the bottle of wine down and left, and I took the bottle of wine and started to drink out of the bottle. And that woman next to me almost fell out of her chair, and I said, shit, hey, you want a drink? I was asked to leave that restaurant. See, that's silly, stupid things that I'm not proud of, but that's what happened to me when I drank. You know, and then I came to believe in a power greater than myself. I'm Roman Catholic, and that wasn't hard. You know, I kind of figured that all the stuff I went through, somebody up there liked me. I remember when I was driving at I-75 in Detroit, Michigan, I blacked out at the wheel, and the next thing I noticed, I was up on an embankment, and I looked further down the road, and there was a bridge abutment about 100 feet. So somebody must have been watching out for me that I would pass out before that abutment. And God was there. He was there a lot of times for me. I may have spit in his face and damned him for doing this to me. When I came into AA, I kind of figured that society did this to me. And in that clubhouse in Milwaukee, we had a guy by the name of Big Carl. And he gave me a piece of paper. And he told me to write down who in society did this to me. But I have to be honest. He whispered in my ear. He says, you be real honest. Okay. So about an hour and a half goes by, and I only got 2 names down there. It's I and me. No one else did this to me but me. I have no one to blame but me. Society didn't do this to me. I didn't inherit this. I drank because I liked the effect and I liked what happened to me when I drank. Then I didn't like what happened to me when I drank. They say it's a death of 1,000 deaths. I remember I would drink in the darkness of night because it always obscures things. You don't have to look at reality. It's always dark. But if you go walk out of a bar when it's daylight, you sort of get a real bad feeling that you're not doing something right. What are you doing wrong here? And that's what I felt. And then I got into the meat of the program and I started to look at those steps. And I kind of figured somebody up there doesn't like me because they wrote that 4th step. And you go to enough meetings, you hear people taking white out. You can take that word fearless and you can white it out, but you still got to take it. I wanted a recall from God because I had defects of character. That didn't work either. I wanted God to put my mind through a mental car wash to wipe out this disease. That didn't work either. I thought God was a Jew and I could negotiate with them. That didn't work either. So I had to take that step. And then when I took my 5th step, I was looking for somebody that was near death. And so I found this Jesuit priest, Father McAvoy. And he didn't die on me. And I got done with my 5th step and he was laughing at me because he called me a lightweight. And he said, I heard worse. But it's good. It's always good to go through that, And then when I looked at step 6 and 7, I said, after a while when you're sober long enough, you don't want these things. You don't want to be greedy. You don't want to be selfish. You don't really want them because it's a turnoff. I work with a guy, Lou, and he's dating. He's 38 years old. We're good friends. And I gave him a little AA philosophy without him knowing it, And you know what? You're supposed to dance like nobody else. Nobody's watching you. And you're supposed to love unconditionally and don't expect love in return. And you're supposed to work like you don't need the money. And I told him that, and that sort of like rang a bell. He wants this woman that he's going to get married to sign a prenuptial agreement. I said, Lou, if you do that, you're slapping her right in the face. You're telling her from the outset, I don't trust you. He says, well, you're right, Bob. I gave him a lot of advice. My son's name is Louis. This guy's name is Louis. It's like my son, my older son. But that's the whole thing. These defects of character, they got to go. Because being self-centered, you turn people off. I don't like to be the highlight of the party. I like to be in the back, watching the whole thing, getting the whole perspective. That's where I like to be. I like to be in the back so I can take a look at what's going on. When I was drinking, they said, you know what, Bob, you're always on the outside looking in. I said, you know what, maybe that's the way I want it. Maybe I don't like the madness in the inside. Alcoholics, we're just rambunctious, self-willed, rebellious folks. I just wonder how we got together. You look at those traditions, that's where they're there. Otherwise, we ain't going to get along. They had the Washingtonians. It was a great organization, and then they got into politics. And we fell flat on our ass. Then he came back with the Oxford group. We were to Dr. Bob's house in Akron, Penny and I. Quite a thing. We were over at the Mayflower Hotel where he made that call. And it's something, you know. And the foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous. Back in the Midwest and on the East Coast, that's a big thing, is to go to that thing in June for Founders Day. He got the University of Akron there, and he went out the whole campus, and it's really a big thing. It's really good that they do have that thing, you know. Anyways, when I looked at step 8 and 9, that's the one I wanted to take, because I wanted my family back in my life. I wanted to make amends so they would come back in my life. My ex-wife and I, she had a baby out of wedlock. The girl's still very nice, a young lady, Michelle. And it wasn't going to work. I couldn't be with that woman. So I got a woman that 13-stepped me, you know. She had 3 years of sobriety. I don't know. I had about 18 or whatever. She said I was like a cherry on a tree. Easy pickings. No, that's okay. You know what? Alcoholics Anonymous is not a bordello. It really isn't. I was told that you would find a bottle underneath that skirt. That sort of breaks it off right there. And you go to enough meetings, you hear people share. And there's this one gal. She was a lady of the night when she was drinking. And she was charging $20. A trick, as they say. And she sobered up, and she kind of figured she's going to up the price, like this Flynn with this auction. Now she got $50. I just wonder if she's still doing that. Her self-worth went up. And that's the beautiful part about Alcoholics Anonymous. You hear all these things, you know. When I looked at step 10, you know, we're not always wrong. And we're not always right. And in life, that's a beautiful part about being anonymous, is that I can sit back and watch. And, you know, they throw out this term, normie. You know, God loved those little normie folks. I love them. I love you. Without them drinking, I would have a hard time. You know, I really would. God love you, normies. I don't even know if they're normies. Because that means I'm abnormal, and I don't think I'm abnormal. Much. But I'm a little, you know. And God love them. I tended bar for a number of years on this program. And I would watch, and it's no big deal, I would watch people come in on New Year's Eve. And I would hear things like, "Two's my limit." What? Is something wrong with you? Or, "No, that's enough for me." Hey, when I drank and it was a holiday and I went to an open bar, Christ, I thought I died and went to heaven. Look at all that booze. I'm going to have one of everyone. That's when I drank. And you hear these things, you know. And you know what? I have to admit these things. And especially, it bothers me if I don't. You know, the guy I work for, one of the other guys I work for, John, he likes to fire people. And I'm on real good terms with him. He won't fire me, you know, but I say, "Why don't you go down to Torrance and fire somebody? Because you're nothing but gnarly. You're impossible to deal with, you know." And I talk, you know, and he'll go down and fire somebody. The company I work for, they don't mess around. Either you cut the mustard or you're out. And I was sharing with him, John, I said, "You know what, John, there's no volunteers. There's no victims. We're all volunteers to be victims." He says, "You're right, you know." Because this one guy he was firing, he was always a victim. And, you know, you take the principles of alcoholic, the 12 steps of recovery. When I sobered up, there was this place, this company called Amway. They had 12 steps of success. You know, you prayed to a box of soap. That was okay. Some people make money in that organization, fine, you know. But you know what? This has been incorporated in a lot of things. Alcoholics Anonymous has been a very positive influence in a lot of things. Because if you run a business like you would in accordance with the 12 steps, you can't fail. You're going to make money. If you run your business of life in accordance with the 12 steps, you can't fail. You're going to make it. You know. The things that really help me is I always remember my last drunk. I never plan my next one. I was told that. Don't. Because this is an insidious thing. You know, this is an insidious disease. It's waiting for me. It has a jihad. It's the worst terrorist you ever seen in your entire life. It wants to bury me. And if I don't take these steps, it will eat me alive. And I can't relax. Well, I'm not uptight all the time, but I know that little devil alcohol, he's out there. That alcohol is, you know, every once in a while I say, go bother somebody else. Leave me alone. Go bother somebody else. I'm taking a vacation from the 12 steps. And he says, you don't do that. You can't take a vacation from the 12 steps. You know, this power of meditation, this 11th step, it really works. And I I don't know how many times I say the Serenity Prayer during the course of the day, but I say it and it does work. And to meditate, and it really helps. It's mind clearing. You know, on the 12 steps, and I have to carry the message, you know. And you know what? I'm the kind of alcoholic that I work with other alcoholics, and none of them ever sobered up, except me. I told you about 2 instances we had. You know, I had the last one. He was a screenwriter from, it was really sad. He lost a $500,000 house. He was living in a house in Sylmar, renting a room from this woman. Really sad. I picked him up the day before he died, and they say that the eyes are the mirror of one's soul. And man, I looked in his face, and I saw pure hell. I don't like that. I don't like looking in somebody's, and I can see the torment that he is going through. And he died the next day. And I tried calling him, and finally I went over there, and the woman he rented the room from told me about it. And she says, you know what? Even his son didn't want to claim the body. Can you imagine that? You know, you go to enough meetings and you hear things that you have to hear. Like, I heard one guy who's driving drunk hit a motorcycle, and on a motorcycle was a passenger, a female and a male, driving the motorcycle. And the woman lost her leg. And part of her rehabilitation is that she has to sit down with the guy who took her leg off. To this day, I don't know what I would say to her. And that's why I don't take that first drink. You know, you heard about the guy that goes to a bar. He orders the first drink, he lets it sit there. And then he said, bartender, give me another drink. And he drinks that one, and bartender says, you know, you had 9 drinks and you didn't touch that first drink. He says, yeah, but it's the first drink that gets me drunk. You know, I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I really appreciate the fact that I was asked to come out here and speak. It's a pleasure meeting you people. I love this auction. I had to go outside to scratch my nose. Flint does a hell of a job. I don't know where he's at, but he does a hell of a job there. And it's wonderful to be, you know, you're my kind of folk, down to earth. You know, I'm a simple man. I got a call from American Express. They want to give me a gold card. Big deal. Okay, fine, I'll take the gold card, you know. And I said to the guy, he says, you know, I got a lot of wants. He says, yeah, but you know what? I really don't need that much in life. I really don't. And you sober up and you get the wisdom to know the difference, what you really need and what you don't need. And I buy things that are toys, little doodads. I'm still a little kid. I like toys, Buy a new car, it's a toy. Buy a new watch, it's a toy. Whatever. But you know what? I like it that way. And going and being in this fellowship, I never grow up. I never grow up because I always see these newcomers coming in. I need the newcomer more than the newcomer needs me because they are the blood of AA. We may be the heart, but they're the blood, and without the blood, the heart don't work. Anyways, thank you very much for allowing me to share. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you.